Good morning. Good morning. Hey, Neda, I can't believe it. Our last until we maybe decide we want to do these again, but our last of these company reads, Build Your Dream Network, conversations around networking at work. If you're joining us for the first time, I'm Kelly Hoey, author of the book, Build Your Dream Network. Handy, just have a copy right here. And Neda Dallal from Penguin Random House. Neda, tell everyone who you are and what Company Reads is.
Yes, hi everyone. Thank you for joining us for this final, maybe not final, Tip Tuesday for Company Reads. Company Reads is an initiative of the Penguin Random House Speakers Bureau, and our job is to connect organizations with dynamic speakers like Kelly and their award-winning books. And we really just want to support leaders and teams at every level. So we're trying to help organizations productively discuss topics that matter by having them do that through reading books. And every month we host a book club to showcase all the amazing titles and speakers that we represent. And the May title, which May has now passed sadly, but the May title was Build Your Dream Network, Kelly's amazing book. And this is going to be our sort of like round out of the month of conversation we've had about Build Your Dream Network. So very excited to be back here with you one last time, Kelly. And just one last little thing, if there are any people out there who work in an organization and want to bring Kelly and Build Your Dream Network to your company for everyone to read, feel free to reach out to us at companyreads.com. We can make that happen.
We can make it happen, and we're delighted to make it happen. And it's been so much fun, Neda, besides getting to hang with you every week in the month of May, just exploring the topics of Build Your Dream Network and how they actually, there's a heck of a lot in this book that applies to the importance of networking within organizations, which is sometimes overlooked because we always sort of think of networking mostly as one of those things you do when you're looking for a job or, looking to change jobs from the one you're in to maybe somebody else's company. But it's really something you need to be doing all the time. And those internal networks are so critical. For those who are watching us live on LinkedIn and Twitter and YouTube, let us know that you're here. Say hello in the comments. If you've got questions, share them. Yes, I can see them, and we can address them during the conversation as well. But today, Neda, should we share what we're going to be talking about?
Yes. I'm so excited to talk about onboarding today. This is a topic I think mystifies everyone in the working world, especially now. It's a very hard thing to make employees feel engaged, but new employees especially who don't have an understanding of a company, of the paths to follow, of who to talk to, it can be a really difficult thing in these times. So I think this is going to be a very enlightening conversation.
Well, we probably all have a story of when we have joined a new company and interviewed, and then the onboarding experience leaves us kind of scratching our head and wondering. There was a wonderful law firm I worked at in Toronto, and when I lateraled over there, I remember my first day at arriving at the office and not even knowing where to go. It was one of these big office towers with multiple elevator banks. And the floor they told me to come to, I couldn't get there without a passcode key and all this kind of stuff. And I finally was called the partner who had hired me. And I'm like, where am I supposed to be and go? And he's like, oh, poop emoji here. Shit. You're starting today. And what had happened was the person who had always planned the onboarding was out on maternity leave. So no one addressed it. And I remember standing there in the lobby of, First Canadian Place in Toronto and just sort of feeling so demoralized and lost at that moment. And it's funny that it having this conversation can, bring this back up again. So yes, and I just a second here, Neda will say hello to some folks. Hey, hello from Madrid and London and all sorts of, good morning and good evening to you in India. Let's see. Morocco, and I know I saw one up here close to home, New Jersey. It's good to see everyone. And yes, we're talking networking at work, but in particular, we're really focusing today on this whole onboarding process. So our big question as we share today, you're hired, now what? But Neda, can you indulge me for a second?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have to do a little geeking out on, I want to say some neurologists and what they've discovered about the human brain.
Okay.
Like, oh no, where is Kelly going today? As well as some Pew research over the last year on how we're adjusting to working remotely, which for so many I want to say white collar jobs, that's what's happened. Jobs that were not previously remote are now remote. And so let's distinguish those from roles that have had to be on location, because you can't really, run an emergency ward remotely. You kind of got to be there and hands on. And cheers to our healthcare workers and grocery store clerks and all those other frontline workers over the past 15, 18 months. So our baseline, where our brain is most comfortable, is in community. That's where it operates at its peak. And our brain is like an efficiency machine in terms of how it's running our body, how it's allocating resources, and anything that's not in its usual will produce a stress response. Hence my stress response when I was arriving for a new job and didn't know where to go. And right, so your body all of a sudden is like this, the perception is wrong. I'm not getting what I'm needing. We have that stress response. And I mentioned that our natural place for our brain to be is like, when you think about how species evolve, we didn't evolve as human beings to one location. We evolved to a lot of geographies and environments, but around other people. So our natural environment is with other people. So you got to kind of keep these two things in mind. Like, we got this efficiency machine that allocates resources. Our natural place is with other human beings, and when things are off, our brain now goes into its non-natural, so to say mode, its non-usual mode. It goes into a different allocation of resources. So the past 15, 18 months during COVID, our brain has gone into a different survival mode. So you think about all sorts of people who have not been motivated, who have really suffered in terms of the anxiety and depression of being alone, people who haven't had energy. This is because your brain is now allocating resources to the rest of your body in different ways because it's in this stress situation, not its normal.
Right.
Or combine that with what I was reading in terms of Pew doing research with Americans on work. And this all ties into onboarding. Don't worry, Neda, I'm getting there.
I'm seeing the threads here, but yes, continue.
So in particular, this research focusing, parsing through it and focusing on younger workers, because, if you've worked in a number of work environments, yes, you may have the two stresses I'm talking about, but your brain's probably going to get a pattern of, oh, I'm going into a new company, I should be asking these questions, or these are the things I should be expecting a little in an onboarding process. But for a new person, this is now going from one sort of unusual environment in terms of how your brain is perceiving it to another unusual environment. And this Pew research really showed that for younger workers, a lack in motivation, not because they're millennials and they're lazy and other, kind of generational perceptions, but this whole environment that we're in, as well as feeling disconnected. Okay, so you've got that, but a high use and comfort in digital tools.
Okay.
So we got to kind of keep these things in mind. And I think anyone planning an onboarding process needs to keep all of these things in mind, that there's a lot going on here in terms of how it's allocating and how it's responding. And based on experience, we may be feeling and handling these stress responses. Our brain may be handling it in different ways. So with that little bit of brain geeking out, let's talk some ideas and what the heck does Kelly mean by things on this slide?
I would love more information about all of this.
So when you're planning an orientation, let's go back to my example. I'm standing there. I don't know where to go. I don't know where I'm supposed to sit or be or anything. When you're planning an onboarding process, this is why, like, I've got Broadway, ! As the first kind of concept is think about if you've had the good fortune to go to a Broadway show. You get your ticket. It tells you what day you're supposed to be there, what time, where you're seated. When you arrive at the theater, they check your ticket.
Yeah.
You're then guided to somebody else who takes that ticket and hands you a program and guides you to where to sit. You've then got that program that gives you that run of show and tells you what to expect and when to expect it. It lets you know when you can take a break. It gives you a synopsis of what the whole overview is down to the micro minute of, when there's going to be, when you're going to leave and what time you're going to leave the theater. Then you also get reminders of the things you're supposed to do. Turn off your mobile phone. So you think about all of those things that in that program for a Broadway show, as well as the things you don't see in terms of the production. In terms of, you think of a musical, you can all joke about certain musicals. You hear the music for one, and then you go to another show and you're like, sounds like the same music. There's a tempo, right? A tempo that draws us in. There's a tempo in terms of when we relax. There's a tempo to get us energized. So think about when you're planning, particularly thinking when you're onboarding more than one person at once, how you can, besides giving the instruction, how you create the tempo, how you would create that, the differences in, I want to say, noise level, but you know what I mean. It's the differences in the style, the presentation, the content, so that you're not just getting, lecture after lecture after lecture, or an hour of forms for HR, then an hour in forms of finance, then an hour of form, a whole lot. It also, you think about something like a Broadway show, you might get emails, you might get other notifications now too, not just your tickets in the mail. And that, again, reinforcing for someone who is joining a company, an organization, it's reinforcing their decision to choose you or to be excited to contribute versus somebody else. So that's where I'm like, go Broadway, like really think like this is a production, and whether it's for one person or with some industries, like they bring in a whole new class, of analysts or lawyers or, what have you, which in some ways can make it easier, but at the same time, you need to have that same level of detail and I think and attention and care when it's, one or two people and direct them, which gets to our next point. Ghostbusters. You say Ghostbusters. What do you think, Neda?
Who are you going to call?
Exactly. Make it easy for people to figure out who it is they should call and not have to, flounder around or not have to scroll through endless FAQs or a company directory. Why not have it, hey, you're new. Here's your 3 best people to call with these questions. You got a question on your healthcare plan. Like I'm thinking of the things that are usually a lot of fine print, that 401k, who are you going to call? Like have the face, or I can answer your questions on XYZ. Why not make it a special page in your company directory that pops up first for new people, so that they know immediately who to go to with some of these commonly asked questions and things they should and want to know about, and things you want them to sign up for and return forms for quickly. Benefits everyone. So that's like, hey, and why not make these things fun,
Yeah.
And then in terms of going back to school, I know that, hey, we're in June. There's people who are like, hey, I'm just graduating. I'm done with this.
Don't want to talk about school right now.
But think about when people, when they land on campus, there's often orientation. And what do? They grab people who did it the year before,
right,
to show them around and to sort of say, hey, yes, I know you're going to get that information package, and I know they're going to send you this, or I know you're going to do this, but here's the hack I discovered, or here's some recommendations, or you know what? They give you all these materials. Your best friend is going to be that little blue book, the one you throw to the side. So, all that kind of stuff. I just have to stop because, yes, I'm glad the Ghostbusters resonated. Glad it resonated. So think about, all right, maybe, employees that you've onboarded recently or in the last year, maybe you tap them. And you tap them as a way to be sort of these orientation, mentors.
Yeah.
It could be a way of tapping people in other areas of your company. You could think of all sorts of different ways to connect people rather than just relying on practice groups. Go back to the example I gave at the beginning, the firm I went to, they relied on practice groups to do onboarding. And as soon as somebody who was responsible for it wasn't around, the whole system fell apart, rather than, maybe having someone overseeing it for the entire firm. Yeah. And then giving individual discretion with respect to your particular sector, your particular department, geography, whatever it may be. But also, as we've talked in past conversations, Neda, about like penguin pairs. How do we meet people beyond our own silos? How do we bust down some of those things so we get to know more people within a company? Having this sort of orientation and this sort of, hey, how do we go back to school and we find some new people who, raise their hand and say, yeah, I'm more than happy to help people, navigate their first week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it is. I can be their buddy that they can reach out to. I also think, you need to think about what you have in school, which is like study groups. So when you think of a university or college orientation, they do it in a group, right? And then, you have your buddy or your orientation leader who kind of is there to help you. But think about your study groups. So this is another way of creating cohesion, of creating these important peer groups. And I think it's also really important to have it peer or group led. As soon as you assign on a long-term basis, as soon as you assign someone to lead it, then it's sort of top-down learning as opposed to 360 learning. Yeah. And the more these new employees can start and leverage each other's information, this is going to benefit them and it's going to benefit the company as they find answers for themselves, as they tap in and bring different networks and information they're learning within the company. And you're going to get that sort of greater cohesion and I'm saying engagement and participation rather than, again, sort of having that, I'm going to say lecture hall type of learning where you're just, yeah.
Totally. Thinking back to like when I started at Penguin Random House, for example, some of the most meaningful conversations and things I learned came from people who weren't even in my team. They were people I met, outside who had either just started as well or had been there a year and were willing to teach me the ropes. So yeah, it like reduces the overwhelm of starting at a new position and it also expands your network for sure.
Well, it's, like the people you're most comfortable asking those, we like to say there's no stupid question, but we still feel stupid asking some questions. And for someone else to say, oh my God, I was struggling with that as well. Here's where I found the answer.
Yes.
And you're going to get that from a peer environment. Like I said, again, we're likely sort of human behavior to ask those things and do those things in that kind of environment versus kind of a top-down learning all the time, or knowing that every time we ask that busy colleague who's in HR, they're going to direct us to, an online resource. And really, there's another need we have to engage with people. So, give them some resources and find some people to direct them to, rather than just saying, oh, you'll find it in the employee handbook.
Exactly.
Right. You'll find it in the employee handbook. I feel like that with a customer service email I had yesterday, and someone was like, what our policy is. I'm like, yeah, but your policy also says this. So you've got a contradiction here.
Yeah. Also, employee handbooks are like 200 pages long. Who's got time to go through all of them?
Yeah, well, as we're talking today, and as we talked in our last conversation, what are ways that we can make these things more interactive and engaging based on how we're using technology, how our eyes, sort of part of this is using technology is not just, our keystrokes on our fingers or our swipes or our clicks. It's, visually, it's sort of customarily, and how can we incorporate that into the way we're presenting information, including employee profiles, so that people can easily find things. I'm going to say, just for anybody with this part of this conversation, since we mentioned prior videos, there's also a prior PowerPoint. Mm-hmm. Somehow, Neda, during COVID, I'm mastering the PowerPoint. This is a mighty accomplishment for me. So if folks want those, follow up with Company Reads, and they will be able to direct you where you can find past PowerPoints and other resources, including a reading guide for Build Your Dream Network. And as we get to the next slide, so we sort of talked some of the ideas, generally, Neda, about the structure of an orientation and some ideas of getting some more people engagement, but, maybe people want to zhuzh up, and have some more fun with some of this stuff as well. So here's some more ideas and resources. Two of them are ones that I've created with respect to the materials from Build Your Dream Network. And the third is a digital platform that I really like, and I'll get into mixers, as well. Are you familiar with the card game, Cards Against Humanity, Neda?
Of course. How could I not?
Okay, so there's a wonderful website called All Bad Cards, and they have a digital version or digital versions of kind of I want to say, modeling. That's the best way. They're very careful about copyright, modeling and following the rules of Cards Against Humanity. There's some naughty cards and card decks out there, and there's some clean and family-friendly ones. And under the clean and family-friendly ones, you will find a Build Your Dream Network card deck.
So exciting.
So you think of those rules. So if you want to have conversations with people around careers and networking, and you don't want to sort of just awkwardly, kind of think, all right, everyone, what are you doing with your career, or how's that job search going? Go and find go to All Bad Cards and search for the Build Your Dream Network card deck. And, if you're someone who's in HR, in professional development, career services, this is a way to have those conversations with folks who may be, I want to say, stumbling, which is common, or fumbling, or confused about, or questioning where their career is going. And this is a way to, have a few fun hands of cards and, have a conversation around that. I've used it in that context myself with people at various career stages. And you know, sometimes we have to laugh at our own career anxieties and put things into a new perspective. So there's that. What's Build Your Dream Network Bingo? It's a whole lot of prompts to encourage people to not only build connections, but to think about networking in a new way. And this one, Neda, I think is particularly a great fun one for within organizations where people may be, I don't know, they want to network more within the company. They're working from home for the first time, since we have seen through the pandemic a complete flip, you know, in terms of the number of remote workers from, you know, 15, 20, 30% to 71, 80% of these white collar jobs that were previously not able to be remote are now suddenly remote. But people need to connect, and they're wondering how to do it, since, you know, there still is that old mindset out there that, you know, we need to shake hands and grab a coffee, and that's what networking is. So these are a whole lot of prompts, digital as well as in real life. If we'll share the link later with where you can download those from the Company Reads website. All the Build Your Dream Network bingo cards is.
I can vouch for it because I've played myself, and it's a very useful little game. So I highly recommend for anyone who's listening.
Yeah, like it's just a way you could do a bingo call a day, and whoever gets bingo first, you could, you know, give them some company swag, you know, and some of the things, as you know from looking at the cards, they're, you know, did you wish someone a happy birthday? Did you follow up on, you know, with a mentor? Did you, you know, chair a meeting? Did you sign up to join a committee? All of these things are networking activities, and this is just a good way to remind people that they have a broader breadth of things they can be doing, particularly in the workplace, and to engage, you know, answering a question from a colleague on a Slack channel. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, crazy, that's networking, you know, do that more often. So all of that. Now, and then the final, I want to point out Mixtroz. It is an app that can enhance both your in-person and online if you're doing a virtual event. It is used in a lot of college campuses. They've done a lot of that, where you want people to mix. And okay, Neda, the skill testing question. Have you ever like gone to an event and been seated at a table and thought, who are these people and what am I going to say?
Too many times to count.
Okay, this is where Mixtroz comes in. So event planners can have question prompts when people use the app for their particular event, and they set the questions they want to have, and then you can create your mixes based on these commonalities. Mm. So I'm going to tell you from product testing it. I remember being, you know, broken into my mix and looking at everybody on the app going, why, oh, why are we in the room together? But Mixtroz lets you know why you're in the room. And we all realize, guess what? We love Beyonce. That's why we were in the room together.
Very important commonality that I'm sure can lead to great discussions.
Well, as soon as we realized that that was the commonality, it was like, oh, there we go. So a whole bunch of people who didn't look like each other, who are based across the United States, all of a sudden we're like, oh, we've got something in common. Right. And then we got into the conversation that we were sort of designated to have in this breakout room. But again, the organizers can plan that. So they could say, gee, we want everyone with an undergraduate degree in anthropology to, you know, be in the same room, or everybody who's got an interest in, it's Pride Month, you know, everyone who's got an interest in, you know, LGBTQ issues in the same room. We want everybody who wants to learn more about fill in the blank. Oh, there's a lot of things. You could, the organizers get to decide this, and then it's complete transparency to the people around the table. And I think I'm spending a lot of time on it because I think it's a really additive and useful tool to planning. Go back to the Think Broadway, when you're handing people their tickets and telling them where to sit, this is a great additive tool to help do that, to create these synergies that aren't apparent on the surface.
And it seems like it's also a very creative spin on like the icebreaker thing that everybody hates to do. This seems like a much more fun way of introducing that, an organic way, I would say. So
yeah, you sit down at the table because, like I said, the app itself, you can say, oh, how did my group answer these questions?
Yeah.
And the questions get weighted, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I see why we're all together.
Yeah. It's
And
really
then yes, because I sometimes think those, icebreaker questions can be they feel so artificial.
Right.
But even when you have them, if you already are starting from this baseline of, all right, we're the Beyonce tribe, or we're, whatever it may be, or we all studied, archaeology and now we're in tech, or, whatever.
Exactly.
So that's what I got for you this time, Neda.
Amazing. I think you've given us quite a lot to think about in terms of the onboarding process. I mean, yeah, all of this stuff is super creative and kind of, awesome, Constance. Thank you so much.
I can scan things. Yeah. And I want to say good morning, Puerto Rico. Lovely to have you here.
Very cool. Yeah. I love all these ideas. I kind of want to go out and onboard someone new right now just because I feel so inspired to get someone acquainted with PRH.
What? Or are you trying to, you're going to have a round of all bad cards, or are you going to play bingo? Which one is it going to be, Neda?
Oh man, so hard to choose. I would probably go bingo just because I have an affinity for it, but all bad cards, I can't wait to play that with my colleagues as well.
We'll set up a game because it is good fun. So this has been a joy. I see that there was a question here. Connecting with people, connecting using LinkedIn. There's a question on that. Dinesh, thank you for that question. I will post in the comments some resources and some opportunities in terms of ideas for people who are looking on their personal networking. We've really been focusing on, all right, the bigger picture of how an organization can facilitate networking in the workplace. But don't you worry, I have got this, I'm going to say endless ideas on how individuals, and between the podcasts and the blogs and all the rest of us. And, this is a great question from Constance, how we enhance this in a virtual environment. This is part of the reason, Constance, for really stressing over the past month these ideas in Build Your Dream Network, because this virtual is now, I want to say, a critical and an essential part of the workplace for the inevitable future. And there have been, I want to say, it's magnified the inadequacies of the past in how we have brought people together and how we have too much left engagement and figuring things out to happenstance rather than planning and orchestrating and thinking this through. And I know it puts an additional burden on already burdened HR and management and all the rest of it. But when you've spent all this time hiring new people, it behooves you to get them on board the right way and give them the care and attention that they need so that they get up to speed faster. Because if you're hiring them, that means you need them to do their job as efficiently and be as, a productive and happy. And that doesn't just happen because you've hired them and they've filled out some forms. So showing them the ropes, showing them around, and having guides and direction to do that. So most of what we've been talking about have really been trying to address this virtual environment constants, because it's here, it's staying, and as I said, it is magnified and shone a big light on where we've had these problems.
Definitely.
But do leave, and I mean, hopefully that helps, Constance. And if you haven't seen our other videos and PowerPoints, you know, you can scroll through. I'll also put in the comments, I'll put links to our past conversations. Neda will be posting in where you can find these resources to download them from Company Reads. And if you're not finding the answers, let me know. Let Neda know, because guess what? We can solve that problem too.
Yes, we're always here for questions like that. Kelly, this has been so awesome. Thank you so much for doing this with me all month and helping us boost your amazing book. I just think people have a lot to learn from you, and it's been great to like be able to get the word out about networking with you.
Well, thank you, Neda, and I might have to strong arm you to come back and do this again. I'm going to say, here's here. Alan and I will miss you if we don't get to see you.
Oh, you can't bring Alan in and expect me to say no.
And for anybody who's wondering, go and Google who the founder was of Penguin Books, and they'll know why the penguin is named Alan. All right. Have a wonderful Tuesday, everyone. I hope these tips, these Company Reads Build Your Dream Network Tip Tuesday tips were helpful. You watch this video, we've got some past videos, and if there's questions we haven't answered, well, let us know, because, you know, I guess we can be strong-armed to come back again. So take care, everybody.
Bye.